Welcome back, everyone. There's been a lot of NFL free agency movement just in the past 2 days since teams could start signing players. And who better, of course, than Jeff Corchini to break this all down from us. Jeff Corchini from Fantasy Football Starters. We're used to seeing you during the football season, but this is the off season, and yes, still things are happening.
That's right, Tess. You know, there's two ways that teams improve in the off season. One is through free agency, and the other one is through the draft. And right now, free agency has kicked off. Little interesting. There's some good and bad and ugly to this year.
It's different this year, right?
Yeah, the good is that it's kicked off. The bad is that we're in the final year of the collective bargaining agreement contract. So what that means is this is an uncapped year. Which
no
means,
salary cap.
No salary. Owners
Sky's
can spend as much money as they want, you bet, no salary cap. And there's restrictions on free agents, meaning that instead of the traditional free agency where you could move after 4 years, you actually have to have had 6 years of accrued time. So a lot of players, not very many players are out there, and then the Cardinals, because they were one of the final teams last year, they made it to the divisional playoffs, there's a restriction on them. They cannot sign an unrestricted free agent until they lose one on their roster. So
Which they have.
They've lost.
Over the weekend,
yes, they have.
That.
They've lost a few players, and they actually picked up a player. They've been really hit this year, shall we say. But, you know, you look at it right now, and it started off with Anquan Boldin, right? Everybody kind of knew about this, that he was probably going to
He's been looking. We knew. He's been traded. Very vocal about that.
Exactly. He was traded to the Ravens for a third and a fourth round pick. The Cardinals also sent a fifth round pick, and I look at this as actually a good move, Tess. They got the Cardinals got the best years out of him. He's going to continue to have good fantasy value in Baltimore. Actually may even help Flacco, the quarterback. But the Cardinals, they need to rebuild. They're one of the teams that are, you know, now teams are pursuing their players. They need to rebuild. This is a perfect time for them to pick up draft picks.
And that's a hard thing with winning. They're at the top of their game. They're the most valuable. So we're going to probably see some big bids to get those guys out. Carlos Dansby is another player, of course, who's now out. What kind of impact do you think this will have?
Big impact. You know, he just signed a 5-year, $43 million deal, 22 of it guaranteed with the Miami Dolphins. He said he was excited about the coaching staff there. Hey, Tess, you're going to get $22 million guaranteed. That's pretty exciting. So losing him is going to have an impact on the defense. The same thing goes with they just lost Antrel Rolle to the New York Giants. And, you know, another big deal, 5 years, I think $37 million, $15 million guaranteed. And Antrel Rolle, great player, somebody that was coveted. These guys moved within 24 hours after free agency.
And talk about Kerry Rhodes.
Kerry Rhodes just picked up. You know that the Cardinals were able to pull off a trade yesterday. They traded for Kerry Rhodes, who's with the New York Jets, a good, strong safety. What this brings back is kind of a little bit of what they lost in losing Antrel Rolle. Kerry Rhodes, you look at him, you look at Adrian Wilson, these are big guys that are ready to start handling some big wide receivers.
So with some of the players gone, we've accrued one now. How does the release of a certain player impact the value of the others who are basically maybe in limbo saying, what's going to happen to me next?
Yeah, you know, it can happen. It's happened already to a couple of teams. So what do they call it? Addition by subtraction. So if you look at, for example, losing Anquan Boldin, Steve Breston, his value is up right now. That's one of the reasons the Cardinals let him go. We look for him to be a #2 fantasy football wide receiver this year. He's going to be starting alongside Larry Fitzgerald, so his value is definitely going to go up. And then Matt Moore, the quarterback, Carolina Panthers. Now, they had Jake Delhomme. They signed him to a big contract 2 years ago. He hasn't been right since the Cardinals beat him in the divisional playoffs, but Matt Moore played 5 games. He was 4-1. He had over 100 quarterback rating at the end of the year last year, so his value definitely goes up. And then Sean Green, running back, he was a rookie running back drafted by the Jets. With Thomas Jones being released, his value goes up. He's probably going to get the bulk of the carriers. Look for him to be a top 10 fantasy pick. And then down, there's some value down there too. If you look at what happened, Chester Taylor from the Minnesota Vikings was picked up by the Bears. That drops Matt Forte's value as a running back. So it's going to kind of be a running back by committee. And then you got to look at the Cardinals defense, right, Tess?
Sure.
With them losing Antrel Rolle, with them losing Carlos Dansby, I mean, you still have Darnell Dockett, you still have Adrian Wilson, and those guys as far as leadership goes. But, you know, the Cardinals, they're in a building year, so they picked up some draft picks, which is good. And I think they're going to be set for the draft in the future.
All right, that's what I was going to ask next, was but you already answered that. We have to start building now, obviously.
You bet.
All right, and I know we're not in football season right now, but before we know it, we'll be back again. So you want to let folks know, hey, sign up, because we're tracking the fantasy football teams all year round.
That's right, Tess. And what we always do for our News Channel 3 viewers is give them our free offer. If they register only at fantasyfootballstarters.com and then they email Jeff at fantasyfootballstarters.com, I will upgrade them, Tess, to our premium package package absolutely free. This is going to be the last year that we're probably going to offer any of our analyzers for free, so this is a great deal in the off season.
All right, get going now, because we know those fantasy football players, it's serious business.
You got it. You're around.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to see you in the off season. Folks,